Okay, we have a new cup on today. Oh, it doesn't have the label. No, right here. A new cup on today. Oh, voila. Okay, get into it. Get into the color. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to my home, my channel. Your home, your channel. You know, I thought that would make sense in my mind. It might still make sense. But anyways, welcome back guys. I am recovering from a cold, so I do feel like my energy isn't 100% there. But nonetheless, wow. Nonetheless, we are going to film this video, okay? So welcome, let's go. Let's jump into it. We're gonna be talking about postpartum eclampsia. What is it? That's really it. What is it? You know, there's preeclampsia, eclampsia, and postpartum eclampsia. These are all just names of things that can take you out. Really can. So with preeclampsia, you get high blood pressure, and you don't even have to be somebody that's ever struggled with high blood pressure. It just happens. Like, you get high blood pressure, and that high blood pressure can lead to kidney failure, it can lead to liver failure, it could lead to preterm labor, preterm birth, and it happens to 5 to 8% of women. Like I said, there's really nothing that you can do to prevent it yourself. Like, you can be the healthiest person, but some way, somehow, you end up with preeclampsia, and it can affect your baby. Most of the time, people are put on medications, and a lot of times they end up taking their babies out early just for their safety and the mom's safety, because you can die. It can lead to eclampsia. With eclampsia, you have seizures. It can cause you to be disoriented. It can cause confusion. It can cause you to go into a coma. A whole coma, y'all. And then there's postpartum eclampsia, which is what I had, and it's kind of like eclampsia and preeclampsia together. It can cause damage to your brains, your eyes, your liver, your kidney. It can lead to stroke. Within 6 weeks after you give birth, you can get postpartum eclampsia. And you don't have to have preeclampsia, which is during pregnancy, for you to have postpartum eclampsia. So I ended up with postpartum eclampsia. I remember when I was being seen by a doctor after the fact, they were like, that is the one that we're really scared about, because it's not easily caught. Some of the symptoms that would lead you to go into the hospital is things like headaches or swollen feet and swollen ankles. But it's like, after you just gave birth, you think those things can be normal. Like, you can have swollen feet and you can have a swollen ankle and not think much about it, but it can actually lead to death. And that's kind of insane. And when you really think about it, I'm like a walking miracle. I really am. Like, I thought about that the other day. I was just like, if I had a song, okay, if we walked around and we had like a theme song that followed us, mine would be, every time I turn around, blessings, blessings. Every time I turn around, blessings and blessings. Do I know who wrote that song? No. But every single time I hear it in church, it's fire. So yeah, let's talk about it. What led me to the hospital? So one night I was having a dream about my mom holding my baby or something, and I don't even remember the details, but I woke up screaming, and after I screamed, I realized that my head was throbbing. Like, it was a piercing headache. Sickness trying to take me out. But okay, sucker. I had a piercing headache, and my grandma was staying with us at the time, and so she comes running because I screamed. Her and Jessie come running, and she's like, oh, you need to go to the hospital right now. And then in my mind, I'm like, I just had a dream. Like, I just had a dream, and the headache went away. All I did was like sit up, and it went away, and I didn't think anything of it. And I'm over here thinking, like, she is being so extra right now. Like, it's just like, I'm fine. It's just a headache, right? Later that day, I took a late afternoon nap, and when I woke up from my nap, I didn't scream this time, but I also had the same headache, but it went away after I sat up. And so I'm like, something not right. Something's a little fishy, you know? I woke up the next morning and it was another headache. And so I went on my mom's Facebook friend group and I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm experiencing. Anybody else experiencing it too? Like, is it normal? And I started reading the comments and they were like, postpartum eclampsia, call your OB, eclampsia, eclampsia, eclampsia. And I'm like, what in the world is eclampsia? And why is it coming after me? And so I texted my OB. She recommended I take my blood pressure and it was pretty high. And then she told me, she recommended that I should go to the hospital. And so I get my hospital bag together and I'm like, this is just gonna be a quick checkup because why wouldn't it be a quick checkup? And so my mom had come over that Saturday and I was like, hey mom, I'm just gonna go to the hospital. If you could just, stay and watch Nyla, where her formula is, all the things, and I'll just be back. Yeah, that's what I said. I said, I'll be back. And on my way to the hospital, I'm like annoyed. I am annoyed and irritated because at this point my pregnancy was already a struggle and then I ended up with an emergency C-section. Like, what can my body be doing now, sis? What can it be doing now? Like, you've already done the most. You've already done it all. Clearly, there's no way I'm gonna have to be in this hospital again. Like, there's just no way. It's just gonna be a quick checkup and it's gonna be fine. And I remember passing an exit and the peace of the Lord just came upon me. There's very few times that's happened in my life, but I felt the peace of God and I felt him tell me that I was gonna be okay. And so I was like, okay, cool. Jesus told me it's gonna be okay, so it's gonna be okay. By the time I got there, it just kept skyrocketing. It just kept increasing. It was like every single time they took it, it was just higher and higher. It was like 170s, 180s, 1 it was back and forth, right? Then they're like, well, we're gonna have to keep you overnight. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I call my mom. I'm like, mom, they're gonna keep me overnight. The plan was to give me 24-hour magnesium and check my blood pressure again and reevaluate whether or not I'd go home. And magnesium, guys, trash garbage. When it's hospital level magnesium, your whole body is heavy. I mean, you can't even open your eyelids. It's so heavy. It's not the greatest thing. Let's just say that. I ended up staying for 4 days, guys. Another 4-day hospital stay. And every single time they were evaluating whether or not I get to go home, it was based off of my blood pressure. So whenever a doctor came in to take my blood pressure, my anxiety would go through the roof and my blood pressure would just spike. It just happened every time. Even if it seemed like it was going down at some point, the minute somebody walks in, I was having like almost a panic attack, like anxiety attack, just knowing that these numbers determine it all. And lo and behold, they were high every time. After the 3rd day, I for sure thought I was gonna go home. Like, Jesse and I were like, okay, great, this is it, like, it's gonna happen. And then they took it again and it just went up and the doctor was like, you're not gonna go home today. And when he said that, I bawled because at this point it's day 3 without this baby I just had. And my grandma and my mom called me since the previous day. She had stopped taking her formula. She was pooping weird. She wasn't eating. And so she was having her own situation over there because she's been away from me. And I'm over here bawling because I've been away from her. It was very hard for me. And so I cried. And they're like, well, you can bring her to the hospital. But if you bring her to the hospital, you have to have somebody to help you take care of her because she's not our patient. You are our patient and you can't take care of her. And so I looked at my husband and I said, listen, if you love me, if you care at all about me and my mental state of being, I need you to go get my child. Bring me my child. And so he went home that day and he brought Nyla back And even though I was still not good to go home, it made me feel much better. We had to figure out a sleeping situation for her. Like, we stole one of those like baby newborn things that they have in the other baby rooms, and like, you know, like they said, she's not the patient, but I'm like, my baby gotta sleep somewhere. She was able to eat because I breastfed her, and she wasn't pooping weird, and so I felt good about that because she was just struggling. And I was able to go home that following day. They say postpartum eclampsia does take time to regulate, and they do that with blood pressure medicine. I know several people that's like, oh, it took 6 months for mine to regulate, it took a year for mine to regulate. I am about to be 7 months postpartum, and my blood pressure still hasn't fully regulated. One thing I've learned since trying to figure out this whole high blood pressure thing, y'all, I mean, I've heard it said, but did I believe him? No. Eating out, it spikes the blood pressure. It spikes it. Even for me eating like Chick-fil-A nuggets, it spikes it. And we all know Chick-fil-A is the food of the Lord. Like, it's already prayed for, blessed before you even buy it. So like, you know, I never stress about eating Chick-fil-A, but everything spikes. Like, if I go out, so 2 weeks ago was the worst my blood pressure's been, and it's because I went out Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then I went out Monday night, and then I went out Wednesday night. And so that week I just kept having, you know, restaurant food and processed food. My blood pressure, I was getting headaches again. My blood pressure said, girl, if you don't slow down, if you don't simmer down, I'm gonna take you out. And I was like, say less, say less. So I've been doing a better job at eating at this current moment. I've bought a lot of vegetables, trying to make meals that are protein heavy, vegetable heavy, less carbs, less salt. I'm just trying to do my best, y'all. I'm just trying to do my best. I'm trying to eat decent so that this isn't something that takes me out. I find it interesting that when God told me, hey, it's gonna be okay, in my mind that meant I was gonna be going home the same day and I wouldn't have to stress about it. But he was saying, hey, it's gonna be okay, even though you are gonna be in the hospital for a little bit, and you are probably going to cry and have your moments, have meltdowns and stuff like that. It's gonna be okay, I'll take care of you. And I think one thing we have to realize is God's ways are not our ways. And so there's a lot of disappointment that comes when we have our own idea and vision of how God is going to show up for us. And when he doesn't show up the way we want him to show up, then we're disappointed. And I've dealt with that a lot in my life, where it's like I paint out how the Lord's going to save me and how the Lord's going to come through for me and who he's going to use to come through for me and what it's going to look like. And when that doesn't happen, I'm disappointed because the Lord doesn't care about me. And that is not true at all. At all, at all, at all. God is a good father. There's an underlying that he is good. So regardless of how things play out, he is good. And so you have to believe that, okay, I'm not leaving the hospital today like I wanted to, but God is good and he's going to take care of me. And when I do leave the hospital, it's going to be the right time. That is it for this video. It feels like I was all over the place. I'm hoping it doesn't end up being all over the place. And I'm hoping that you learn what needs to be learned about postpartum eclampsia. Reach out to your doctor if you feel like you have symptoms that you are not sure of. One thing I learned about this pregnancy is trust your body. If your body doesn't feel right, if something does not feel right, call them up. You're paying them, call them up. Call them up, okay? Because I had to learn that the hard way, but now that I've learned it, I'm calling. So thank you guys for watching. Love y'all. Have a good day. Bye. Adios. Until next time. Bye. Au revoir.